Welcome to Flashback Files. I'm Josh Green. Today's conversation is with Tori T, and it's a real look at what it means to build your career while you're still figuring out who you are. We talk about the confidence she developed early on, working and leading at a young age, how COVID impacted her post-secondary experience, what motherhood looked like and how it might have impacted and contributed to her career path, and what it looked like to pivot into a new path when her old plan didn't fit anymore. If you're in your late teens or early 20s and you're feeling uncertain, behind, or pressured to have it all mapped out, this episode will feel like a breath of fresh air. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to Flashback Files. Today we're going to explore Tori's situation in her early career journey, from entering post-secondary to work while balancing a precious gift of motherhood. Tori, if you wouldn't mind just maybe giving listeners a little bit about you and what your experiences has been in terms of post-secondary and your early career.
Hi, so I am Tori. I am a almost 26-year-old single mom to a very, very sweet 3-year-old boy named Sebastian. So I am currently in post-secondary, about to graduate tomorrow, actually. This is my second time going to post-secondary, so I went to college when I was 18, right out of high school, for child and youth care, and I absolutely loved it so much. It's what I was very passionate about at the time and what I wanted to do coming out of high school. And it was a 3-year program and I loved it. And I am still very grateful that I did that. But I did have a career change recently this year. And now I went to school for medical aesthetics and I am about to graduate tomorrow from that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So when we talked about kind of your post-secondary, your career a little bit, and obviously Baz, what do you do outside of serious stuff? Just hobbies, personal interests?
It's so funny. I never know how to answer this question because I'm so busy all of the time, especially just being a single mom to a toddler. So I don't have too much time, honestly, for hobbies, but I do love fitness. I've always been into fitness and that kind of has looked different throughout the years. I recently started doing like fitness classes and yoga and Pilates. So that's kind of where I get me time and get to kind of put me at the forefront. I love spending time with friends and family, and I love kind of all things beauty. So nails, makeup, hair, skincare, and that's kind of what drove me into the career that I'm in now.
Amazing. Okay, good. So you do make time for yourself. I was getting a little nervous there, but you do make time for
a little bit.
mom. Okay, good. So let's go back a little bit. When you consider yourself around the ages of 16 and 18, what were you ambitious about back then?
At that age, I had quite a bit of mental health struggles. And I think that's what really drove me into the career that I thought I was going to end up in, which was child and youth care. I really wanted to help people. I wanted to be the person that I always needed in my life when I was that age. That's what I was really ambitious about in the social service kind of field. I really loved that. And I knew that's what I was going to end up in, whether that was like teaching, social worker, counselor, that kind of field. That's really what I was passionate about at the time.
Okay, so definitely a career rooted in service to some degree.
Yeah, for sure.
How confident at the time were you out of 10 that was going to be your calling for the rest of your life?
Pretty confident, probably close to 10. I mean, ever since I was a very young girl, I thought I was going to be a teacher. So I knew I always wanted to work with kids, I think, in helping kids. And as I got a bit older, it turned into more helping people like at-risk youth or like homeless shelters, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I also grew up with foster siblings. My mom was a foster mom. I have two aunts who are in the social service, world. So I think that's what I was really ambitious about at the time. And I was pretty confident that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah, great. I've done a few interviews, and I think you're the most confident to date in terms of, so that's
Well, I
pretty.
didn't end up there. So.
Still some stuff you can bring to what you're doing today, I'm sure. So when you look back at yourself in those late teen years, what parts of your personality still show up today in how you approach work?
I think that, I still love to help people. I still love to be of service to people. Still, I want to make people feel the best version of themselves, whatever that looks like internally, externally, feeling good about themselves. And that's still kind of leading into the work that I'm going to do now. I've always had a pretty good work ethic and drive and desire for this like independence, responsibility since I was young. So that still has carried with me. I'm not sure why I have it, but that's just always been within me, I think.
Okay, and so this is maybe a good segue. Was there anyone out there, like a teacher, a family member, a coach, who might have played a big role in shaping how you saw your potential?
My mom, for sure. I think a lot of the good qualities I have regarding to like ambition and work ethic and all of that really stemmed from her in good ways and bad ways. Growing up, we she was pretty hard on us, and we had to get a job as soon as we were of age too. So I got my first job at 14, and I loved that. I loved having a sense of responsibility and my own money, like seeing that paycheck come in and being able to pay for things on my own. I loved that. Don't love it as much anymore, but I did love that when I was young, that sense of independence for sure.
And what was the first job at 14?
I worked as a coach in training at a gymnastics club. It didn't last very long, but that was my first job.
Okay. And I know it was a short stint. Was there a lesson that it might have taught you going forward as you explored work, even post-secondary?
Honestly, I feel like my second job probably meant more because that job I was only there for like maybe 2 months. My second job, I was there for 6 years from when I was 14 until I was 20. And that taught me, I think, a lot about confidence. Like I was 14 when I started, and I was the longest standing employee there. I was at Pizza Hut. I was a shift manager for 4 years when I was 16 years old. And I was really well respected there from people decades older than me. And that taught me a lot about like confidence. And, I don't necessarily need to be the oldest to be the best, because I always thought like you had to be the oldest to gain the most respect. But I was very well respected there. And I was always the youngest for the whole 4 years that I was working there.
Wow, that must have really helped with confidence of it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I can relate a little bit from McDonald's. I did this kind of the same thing, crew, then ended up becoming manager, not as young as you, but there was this situation where I felt like I was managing my peers. And so when it comes to like, when you think about getting into that slightly like a management role type thing, supervisory role, how was it to manage people that might have been older than you or maybe friends of yours?
It was a little bit difficult. I did have a couple friends there that I guess they're like superior. I didn't have problems with that, but sometimes it was hard to kind of manage people who were older than me because I didn't necessarily get respect as a 16-year-old. If they were maybe in their 40s, they were looking at a 16-year-old and they don't want to be told what to do. So I do remember sometimes struggling with that, but my managers were really good to me. So I did always feel supported regardless of some coworkers I might have had issues with, but I did experience some issues sometimes. Yeah.
And what do you bring into your life today around responsibility, dealing with people from that early experience?
I was thinking about this and thinking about customer service kind of, because I've always had a job where I'm dealing with people, and we were always taught, the customer is always right. And I still carry that with me. And I think it's less about like the customer is always right and more about like you don't know what people are going through in their day to day. And when you're dealing with the public, you're going to run into people who are probably not going to be the nicest to you, and maybe say pretty harsh words. And I think as I've dealt with that throughout the years, I've realized that we really don't know what people are going through in their personal lives. And, I've been that person on the other end, giving somebody else a hard time when it had nothing to do with them. It was like all this other stuff going on in my life. And I was lashing out at other people. And I really take that into my day-to-day professional and personal life. And like, I just don't take it personally, and I think that really helps with keeping work at work, not letting it affect my emotions, and just, having this mask on of professionalism. And I think that's gotten me far.
Great. And so you were in that role until you were 20. And so I guess you went to school post-secondary and you managed, I guess you were working at Pizza Hut at the time.
Yeah, I was.
Okay. So can you take us through how your career evolved since? Like I understand like in your post-secondary, COVID might have had a role in you not being able to take on the role that you would have wanted to with post-secondary. Can you help us understand what happened with, okay, you graduated, COVID hits?
Yeah, COVID hit while I was in school in my last year. And that definitely affected my school. Honestly, now that I think about it, it might have affected my ambition in my program. So I went to school in, I think, 2018, and it was a 3-year program. So during my last year, we were completely closed down. The world was shut down. All of my classes were online. In that program, we were supposed to have 2 placements. So my second year placement was amazing. I loved it. I did it at this big agency. I got to work hands-on with kids. I got to work in an office doing a lot of case management, working with volunteers and interviewing. It was a wonderful experience. And in my third year, I was really looking forward to another placement, especially a more challenging one. I wanted to work with very at-risk youth, at-risk adolescents, special needs, stuff like that. And I didn't get to do that. So I fully missed out on my last year of placement. Everything was just online. And so that was kind of hard. Someone like myself, I like to be in person in school. I very much lose motivation when I'm just online at home. I don't really have a ton of accountability if I'm not, interacting with people. I'm pretty social. So I needed that. So that might have affected how I ended up not using my schooling after that. But so I did end up graduating from there. I was working at Pizza Hut for half of my school. And then I got a job at a daycare for the other half and loved that. I loved working at the daycare, loved working with kids. It's not what I went to school for. Some people get child and youth work and early childhood education confused and kind of mix the two. But child and youth work, you really wouldn't be working with kids under the age of like 6 or 7. So I wasn't working in my field, but I loved that job. And I stayed there even after I graduated because it was easy. It was comfortable. The world was still kind of shut down. I didn't want to get a new job somewhere else. I wasn't allowed to work at 2 places at the same time because of COVID rules when working with kids. So I just stayed there and I stayed where it was comfortable for me.
Right. Okay. And then from there, you moved into another role.
From there at the daycare, I then got pregnant 2022. Yeah. And I stayed at the daycare because I loved it there. Again, like I'm pretty loyal. So I like in my career. So I like to stay at places for a while. I like to develop those connections, and I was treated well there. They treated me well. I treated them well. I loved the kids that I worked with. So I stayed there while I was pregnant, and then went on maternity leave. And when I decided I needed to go back to work after my maternity leave was done, I decided that I could not work with kids while I had my own at home. I think that was a mix of not feeling right about sending my son to daycare and then going to take care of other people's kids. I didn't feel good about that. And then also needing adults. I needed adult conversations. I needed to work with women and men and not babies. Just because I was just home all day, I needed a break, especially being a single mom. I wasn't getting a ton of intellectual conversations at home. And I really craved that when I was on maternity leave. So I ended up getting a job working with my stepdad. It was just easy, I didn't need to, it wasn't emotional. It was a lot of physical labor. And I felt like that's what I needed at the time, being postpartum. I didn't have any more like emotional, I couldn't take care of people's emotional needs anymore.
Right.
I had too much of my own and my son's. So I just kind of wanted a job where I could turn my brain off, use my like just doing physical labor. That was what was appealing to me. And I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing, but that's what I needed when I was freshly postpartum.
Interesting. So as you go through that, it sounds very logical, very methodical. Were you kind of reacting to things in the moment as you were feeling them, or did you know at a certain time during your maternity leave where, okay, this is what I'm going to do as soon as I'm ready to go back to work?
I didn't know. I wasn't fully certain what I was going to do for a while. I did know that I was not going to be able to go back to the daycare. I did know that based on my emotions. I knew that I was just going to be burnt out way too fast. Working with kids, working in the social field, it's an amazing, very selfless job, but you can get burnt out very quickly. And I knew that I needed to not be burnt out for the sake of my child. So I knew that pretty immediately I wouldn't be doing that, but I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I was panicking, trying to figure it out. I was like, I need to go back to work soon, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So it was pretty last minute figuring that out.
Okay. So I could go in so many different areas. I think I have a burning desire to ask, so I'll just ask. You probably had a certain set of skills before Sebastian and maybe developed a certain set of skills after Sebastian. If you were to take inventory of your skill set heading into maternity leave and then, having a year under your belt with Sebastian, being a mother, how have you grown as an individual that maybe it would relay into your career, your new career path?
I think when people say that mothers are superheroes, I very much believe that and relate to that. And I think I had a lot of skills before I had my son, and I had great work ethic and was able to show up. But after becoming a mother, that I think became my superpower. And I think all mothers have that superpower where it's you do the things even when you feel like you can't do them, even when you have no sleep, dealing with a sick child. All you want to do is, lie down and rest. Or if you're sick, you got to show up anyways. And that is something that I'm able to do. I have to do. I don't really have a choice once you become a mother, but that's something that I'm pretty good at is, doing the things even when it's hard and showing up even if I don't feel like it. And I think that skill is very beneficial when you translate it into the professional world. School is very hard, especially when you've been out of school for a long time. It's kind of hard to get back into that atmosphere. And I think the skill of just, doing it, you got to have that. And it's been very helpful for me this past year.
So as you think about, again, post-secondary, having Sebastian and doing your uni program now, are there any resources, any sounding boards, mentors, friends that you've leveraged to help you during the difficult times? Maybe you had moments where you just thought you didn't want to do this in terms of like your new program that you're graduating from. Anybody that you leveraged for those thoughts?
I definitely did have those thoughts, especially at the beginning. I actually was struggling a lot with my confidence in it. I'm someone who wants to be perfect at it as soon as I start. And if I'm not, I want to quit. So I did go through that. And luckily, I have a really, really great support system. I have friends and family that I can rely on. My sister is someone that I heavily rely on, and my mom and my dad and a few close friends that were sounding boards, and very important that I did that, or else I might not have continued with it. I don't like to, ask for help. I find it hard asking for help sometimes, but luckily I have very strong people in my life who want to help, and they've been very great with, giving me their support.
Excellent. So in terms of like what confidence looks like for you today compared with what confidence looked like for you before, is there anything different in terms of what it means to you?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I think before, especially before I had my son, I think confidence to me, I really looked at it in like an outside perspective, like looking confident from in your eyes, Does she look good? Does she look like she knows what she's doing? That's really how I viewed confidence. It didn't matter how I felt, like I wanted to look. And today, it's all about how I feel. It's about, do I feel confident doing this? Like, regardless of how I look, do I feel good about the work that I'm doing? And if I do, nothing else matters. Like, if I upset somebody else, if somebody else doesn't think I did a good job, I'm not going to lose my mind and act like the world is ending. Because in the past, how I viewed confidence, if somebody gave me a critique that was negative, I would have crashed out because I didn't feel confident. I might have looked confident, People might have been like, wow, you looked really great doing that. You looked really confident. Well, internally, I didn't feel that way,
Mhm.
but I was just happy that I looked that way. Today, it's 100% about how I feel. Because I can look confident and not feel that way at all. But it's very important to me now that do I feel confident in what I am giving.
Got it. So not so much relying on external validation as you are just being driven within and being at peace that you can, go to bed at night knowing that
Mm-hmm.
you yourself have done a good job.
Exactly.
Okay. That's taken me a long time to learn.
Me
Congratulations
too.
on figuring it out.
It's not easy. I still love external validation too. It's progress, not perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Are you the type of person who sets long-term goals? So if you think about you're graduating this Friday, the whole world is your oyster. Are you the type of person to have it mapped out in your head what you're doing in 5 years or 10 years? Or are you more looking to adapt to things as they come along?
In the past, I was definitely a long-term goals person. I had my whole life mapped out. It didn't work out how I mapped it out. And now I'm more of, seize the opportunities as they come and play it a little bit by ear. I would say, more short-term goals, but I'm not set in what I want. I used to be very confident in what I wanted to do and what I wanted my life to look like. Like, there's a saying where it's like, when you're young, you know everything. And then the older you get, you realize you don't know anything. And that's exactly how I feel. I thought that I knew everything at 16. I thought I knew everything. And I realized today I don't. I think that's why I kind of take it as it goes, because I don't feel confident in exactly what I want to do, even today, in what I am going to be doing with my career. So I kind of taking it as it comes.
It's a nice approach. That way you're not setting yourself up for disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
They carry on
Exactly.
people's goals. Love it.
Yes, exactly.
If you could go back to your 20-year-old self, and as I think about this, I think about that's 23 years ago for you, not so far off. If you could give your 20-year-old self one sentence of grounding advice, what would it be?
It's okay to not know. That's it. It's okay to not know what you want out of life.
Well put. And again, that's another theme that a few of the people I've spoken to have
Oh
talked
yeah.
about.
It's good. It's good advice.
What advice would you give one of your peers, or maybe somebody that's in their 20-year-old version of themselves who might feel behind or unsure about the direction?
I relate. I related back when I was, graduating, and all my friends knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they were all going to university, and it's okay to not know. There's no such thing as being behind. There's I think as a society we have these made up rules on how you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to live life, the steps that you're supposed to take, and we don't need to follow those made up rules. Everybody's life may look different. You can start over at any time. I have my mom's friend just started school at 55, and it's complete career change, and I think that's amazing. It's inspiring. You can change your career at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. There's no rules.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And speaking of career shifts, I do want to maybe double click on your decision to go into the program that you're graduating from. Did you have a moment where is there quite a bit of thinking that was involved when you decided to take the leap?
I actually had the desire for this kind of career change when I was on maternity leave. I had this passion for doing nails and art, and I wanted to do that when I was on maternity leave, and I ended up just never taking the plunge. I can remember talking to my sister being like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it at home, and I just never pursued it, and I ended up going to work for my stepfather, which I mentioned because I think that was just easier for me.
Mhm.
And I worked there for I think about a year and a half, and it worked. It worked while it worked. And I think the best part about that job was the people that I worked at. That was the part that I enjoyed. I loved working with some of my coworkers, and eventually they all left. And eventually it was basically just me, and I hated going to work every single day. I hated it. There was no part that brought me joy. And in the past it did bring me joy because I got to see the people that I was working with. But eventually it was really just me, and I knew that I could not keep living like that. I couldn't live where the most of my days were at this job that I was hating. And that is ultimately why I took the plunge. I was like, you know what? It's time for me to follow this dream that I kind of planted this seed 2-3 years ago. It's time for me to pursue it. And I think it was hating my job so much that really pushed that to happening.
Got it. So it's there's a bit of a saying. So when you leave a job, you're either running to or running from. In your situation, it sounds like you did a little bit of both. You're running
Yes,
from, but you're also running to something that,
for sure. I think I needed to run from in order to get that push to
right.
run to. And I'm so grateful that that happened, because I might have stayed at that job that was just okay, even if the people were still there. Like, I would have stayed at that job that was just okay instead of running to this career that I'm actually truly passionate about.
Yeah. I definitely hear a theme in your story, which is the need to connect, the want, the desire
Hmm.
with people. Sounds like your new career will give you an opportunity to do that.
Hmm.
I do have to just ask, maybe bits of advice could you give people that might be entertaining working with family members?
I think it's so dependent on the person and the family. I loved working with my family, and I don't know if that's like common. I don't know if that's common. I loved it because I get along very well with my family, and it gave me the opportunity to see them all the time. I got to see there was a lot of us working there. I got to see my sister most days where I wasn't getting to see her very often. And I got to work with my mom most days, so that was really nice for me. Honestly, I feel like there was no cons to working with them. I loved working with them. It was stressful, but okay, you know what? Actually, no, I found a con. I felt very, when you're working with family, I think it's hard to leave work at work, and you take things very personally. So, especially because it was my family's business, so I wasn't just, they weren't just my coworkers, it was my family's business. So, I let that job come home with me and the stress come home with me, because if anything got messed up, if any mistakes were made. It wasn't just work, that's my family's business. This is their livelihood. And when things went wrong, things were going wrong in my family's life. It wasn't just things were going wrong work life. It was, this is their livelihood. So that I took on a lot of stress because of that. It felt very, I couldn't just miss work. It was, this is my so that aspect was really stressful and really hard. But actually the day to day, I loved working.
Yeah. Okay. So any coping mechanisms to deal with that stress that you might have brought home?
I think having my sister was great because she was in the same boat as me. So we got to talk about it together. It was hard to talk with my parents about it because it was stressful for them. And it was their livelihood. But talking with my sister about it, that kind of was relieving because we were going through the same thing, and we could rely on each other for that. So that was helpful.
I think that's a cool and unique scenario. I can only imagine how much the lines do get blurred when you're working with family and then, you're at Thanksgiving or Christmas and, a week before an event happens and it's on everybody's mind. I could only imagine what those types of dynamics could be like.
I'm surprised I didn't think about that when you first asked because it was very stressful now that I think about it.
It came out, so that's good. So we're going to just round off questions soon, but I do want to maybe ask a couple of fun / reflective questions. So if 18-year-old Tori could see you now, what would surprise her the most?
I think just being in the career that I'm in, not being in the social field and being in, like the beauty industry. I would have been very surprised that that's where I ended up.
Based on how certain you were going to work with children, at-risk youth.
Yeah, I knew that that's what I was going to do.
What's the most I'm officially an adult moment you've had so far in your life? I'm shaking my head because I think there are a couple obvious ones, but I just want to just ask.
The obvious one is being a mom. I mean, that's like, I still can't believe that today, but I have a very funny story of this, which happened last year. It was like, wait, I'm an adult. My sister was throwing a Christmas party and we were looking at the invite list and my mom was asking because she was going to come. And we're looking at who's RSVP'd and my sister and I look and we're like, there's no adults coming. And we stopped and laughed about it because the whole list was people who were 25 plus. It was just, there was no parents, our parents weren't coming. And we were like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. No, we're the adults. We're 25. We're actually not only adults, we're moms. But that was a funny moment because we always look for the adult in the room. And I don't look at myself that way. I'm looking for somebody else that way. I get those moments all the time. I'm like, where's the adult here? It's me.
Oh, that's great. My 43-year-old self, I still think of moments where I realize, oh, I am the adult, especially with the 4 kids running around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's one small work-related win that meant way more to you than anyone realized?
Something that happened recently. I guess it's not work related, it's school related, but I recently just won an award at school. So there was 3 awards that were given through all of the campuses. I think there's 3 campuses and I won the one for our campus and I was shocked, but at the same time, it made me feel so good. It made me feel very validated in my, I guess, confidence in what I was doing at school. I feel really confident. I feel I'm a great student. The teachers really saw that and expressed that. And getting that award just really, I think, validated all of my hard work that I've been doing for the past year.
Amazing. Congrats. And
thank you.
It came full circle because you said you weren't very confident heading in the program. So it's just done a 180. Amazing.
For sure.
What's a book, quote, habit, or routine that has genuinely changed how you operate?
This quote that I've seen many times on social media, and I think it relates to one of the questions that we talked about. And it just says, time's going to pass anyways. And I think about that a lot. And I thought about that before I went to school, where it's like, oh, I'm 25 years old. Should I go back to school? Or, oh, I'm 30. Should I go back to school? This is going to take a year. This is going to take 4 years. And the quote is just, the time's going to pass anyways. You might as well do it. 4 years from now, it's going to be 4 years from now, whether you went to school or not. So might as well follow your dreams. And that's something that I carry with me ever since I saw that.
I love that. And there's a couple of ways that you can interpret it. I'm going to maybe put that in the back pocket for future use, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's a good one.
If your post-secondary schooling career to date had a soundtrack, what song would you choose? What's the opening song?
I was thinking about this, and it wasn't easy to think about this. I mean, all I really listen to, if I'm being honest, is Taylor Swift. So I'm trying to think of a Taylor Swift song that could relate. And probably I Can Do It with a Broken Heart by Taylor Swift. It's a good one. It's basically just like, no matter what I'm going through, no matter the hard times I'm going through, I can push through and I can do it. And not only can I do it, I can do it well and I can do it confident. And people are going to see that regardless.
Awesome. And again, that speaks to the internal confidence. I can do it. It's really beautiful. I guess at times you maybe could have chosen Shake It Off by Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a good one.
Okay. And final question. When you think about everything that you've navigated, school, work, life, parenting, what are you most proud of today?
Probably, I mean, being a mom is like my biggest accomplishment, but I think balancing it all and still having my own independence and my own dreams and goals outside of being a mom. I think when we become parents, it's very easy to get lost in that and kind of lose ourselves in that process. And I think the past couple of years for me, I've really been learning about me and discovering me and balancing all that, balancing motherhood, career, hobbies, friends, family. Yeah.
You're doing it well?
Thank you.
Okay, Tori, thank you very much for your time. I think today has been a really interesting perspective in terms of pivoting, developing confidence, self-leadership. And, I love the leadership of, peers and people maybe just a little bit older than you. I think that's a very difficult dynamic to manage. And of course, being a young mother while balancing your identity. So just want to thank you sincerely for your time. And I think that's where we'll end off things.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Okay, that's our conversation with Tori. And a few takeaways really stand out. First and foremost, motherhood was her superpower and still currently is. Confidence isn't always something you feel right away. Sometimes it's something you earn through responsibility, showing up, and learning how to lead even when you're the youngest person in the room. Second, it's okay to not know. Tori's story is a reminder that career clarity can change, and that pivoting doesn't mean you failed. It often means you grew. Third, pay attention to what gives you energy. When Tori lost the parts of work that brought her connection and joy, it became the push she needed to move towards something she was genuinely passionate about. And finally, internal confidence matters more than external validation. A big part of your becoming grounded in your identity and your leadership. If this episode connected with you, share it with someone who's in that early career season of uncertainty, and I'll see you on the next one.